Good Wednesday afternoon. Well, it's still morning for some of y'all. It might even be afternoon if you're watching over in Europe. But welcome to the newest edition of MEAC and More, the MEAC and More with Chris Stevens here on the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Chris Stevens. I am a contributing writer and podcaster here at HBCU Sports, and the MEAC and More speaks for itself. Going to discuss the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference and other schools in full as far as North Carolina A&T, and Hampton, who are in the Coastal Athletic Association, and our friends Tennessee State from the Big South OVC. This episode of the MEAC and More is brought to you by, let me get this straight. See, this is what happens when you have to do things live. This edition of the MEAC and More is brought to you by On the Groove Line, which is my personal music project where I will be discussing music from the past, present, and future. Well, not the future. I mean, we can only get to the future with music when it's done, but that is my special pet project that I'm working on. I invite you all to subscribe, watch the videos. There'll be special guests. There'll be reviews and different things of that nature. So that is my sponsor for this week. Ken Rashad always says, be sure you sponsor something. Make sure you have something that you're working on outside of HBCU Sports, and he's always been really good about that. So I want to give him props for that. So you see it on the screen. I'll put it there on Facebook, and I will put it there on YouTube. So don't be afraid to subscribe to On the Groove Line, which is sponsoring today's episode of MEAC and More. Now that we've got that out of the way, Norfolk State had their official spring game this past weekend, and there was a lot of Spartan star power out there at Dick Price Stadium. Of course, you see Mike Vick hanging out with Allen Iverson, a veteran NFL QB, Tyrod Taylor, a few other luminaries that call the Hampton Roads area home. And this is what Norfolk State needed in terms of getting that program, the football program at least, a little more pub. Because, I mean, we already know about the basketball programs. I mean, Larry Vickers did a great job with the women's program. He's at Auburn now, but Jermaine Woods has come in, and that I don't expect much of a drop-off there. Robert Jones is still doing a great job with the men's basketball program. But the football team is the other part of the front porch of your university, and Norfolk State's front porch needed a little bit of help. So they went out and got Mike Vick, and he's brought a lot of his celebrity friends along. I mean, Allen Iverson is as Hampton Roads as it gets. So is Tyrod Taylor. So you're talking about three guys that if you put Ronald Curry in the conversation, that makes four. So you have four of Hampton Roads' finest, four great quarterbacks coming from the Hampton Roads area, and Michael Vick being one of them. And he was very happy that his friends came to support him, and this is what he had to say about it.
I mean, it was just good to see. Those guys been telling me they was going to come out and support, and I expect to see that all season. So it was just it's good to have the local hometown heroes come out, guys who these young men can look at and look at as role models, and great citizens of the Hampton Roads, and just good people.
That squeaky door obviously threw Mike off. But overall, you get the general picture of what he was saying. It was great for his friends, mentors, role models, and peers to come out and support him. And that's what's going to help Norfolk State. I mean, granted, this is coming from a dude who had all sorts of misgivings about Coach Prime and what he was bringing to Jackson State, but it was nice to see certain folks on the sidelines, like Quavo and Offset and other people at Jackson State showing love, even though it was just because it was Dion. But the bottom line is our schools need as much positive publicity as they get. I mean, and that's up to us to extol the positive virtues of our universities. We got to do it as well. We can't rely on celebrities. We can't rely on splash hires. We still have to do the work ourselves, but it helps. It absolutely helps. And Allen Iverson being there saying that he wants to be a part of what Mike Vick is doing in Norfolk State is huge. So that is something that I hope helps Norfolk State, because, I mean, granted, they have not had a winning season in a very long time. In fact, the only MEAC championship they won in 2011, they got stripped of because they were using ineligible players. So you take that away, their last conference championship in football was in the CIAA in 1984. I don't think too many people that were around for that particular I don't think too many people that are watching this show or listening to this show were around when that was actually happening. So hopefully Mike Vick not only brings that star power, he also brings wins, because you need wins if you're going to have this star power. I mean, Dion, for all his bluster, had Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl 2 years in a row. Can't deny that. So for Vick and Deshaun Jackson, it's really going to be key for them to get these wins going, because these are two programs. I mean, Norfolk State was 4-8 last year. Delaware State was 1-11. They got to start stacking up the wins. Otherwise, it's just going to be another wasted exercise in bringing in celebrity. And Norfolk State also, Hampton also finished up their spring schedule. We're going to hear from a couple of their athletes and head coach Trenton Boykin, who finally had the interim tag taken off his name after replacing Robert Prunty last summer. So here's what they had to say following their spring workouts.
What we're trying to do is just build discipline and build character, and build a winning character in this team. We understand what we got to fix. We understand what we got to do.
We can attack anything thrown at us. We have the right mindset, and we come with the right attitude.
Roll up your sleeves, do what you would normally do, and if it works out, then it was in God's plan. For the most part, I felt comfortable because I'd already been here.
And that Hampton team last year was not bad at all. I mean, they won the games they were supposed to win, and they were only a couple of possessions away from beating teams like Richmond and Albany, and they should have beat Towson, to be honest with you. So this team was better than the 5-7 record they had last year. And I believe that before I get to my Coastal Athletic Association opinions, just saying that Hampton finally seems like they're going in the right direction with respect to football now and in all their sports, because that move from the MEAC to the Big South to the Coastal took a lot out of them. And we'll talk about another school that made that move in just a second. But it feels like Hampton has finally started to turn the corner with respect to what they're doing on the football field. And hopefully it works out for them, because people have been saying these two schools that have joined the Coastal need to just come on back to the MEAC. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, A&T ain't coming back. I mean, young, cut that out right now. that is not happening. They will not be returning. Hampton may, but I just don't see it happening from the perspective of, am I talking? Let me make sure my not talking to myself here. No, I just want to make sure I wasn't on mute, because I thought I was, not hearing something in my microphone, but that's okay. But yes, yeah, Hampton seems like they're going on the right track with football, and hopefully that continues. And their other HBCU counterpart that made that MEAC Big South CAA jump is North Carolina A&T. And they just recently finished up their spring practices with their new head coach, Sean Gibbs, who, of course, played at North Carolina Central, coached under Rod Broadway at A&T, had 2 really good seasons at Fort Valley, and was in line for a Florida A&M job, but Florida A&M didn't want him. Yeah, you see how that works. Anyway, but here's what Coach Gibbs, I found this interesting when they asked Coach Gibbs about, what he wanted from his team on the field and off the field. And this is what he had to say, and I'll read the quote if you can't see it. It says, "Everybody wants to talk about team bonding. I'm talking about team healing, because these guys have been through a lot the last 2 years. One thing the fans can do is stop bringing that up. We've moved on. It's a new year. Let's stop putting that in our guys' heads. We are trying to move on to bigger and better things, so we don't need to talk about what happened in the past, the good or the bad. We need to live in the moment. Encourage our guys. Let them know we're behind you. We're going to support you through thick and thin, through good and bad. We're here for you. Love them. Let them know we love you and that Aggie pride is real." Now, I think that is a great message for the new head Aggie to impart upon not just his players, but his fan base, because A&T has been going through it. I mean, the only game they won last year was against Winston-Salem State. No disrespect to WSSU Ram Nation, who will probably check in at some point, but it's been a rough 2 years for A&T, and all respect due to Vincent Brown once again. Fine gentleman, but I just don't think that A&T job was for him. This is for Sean Gibbs. Make no mistake about it. Like, this is a dude who helped Rod Broadway win 2 Celebration Bowls. This is a dude who had Fort Valley State on the cusp of an SIAC championship each of the last 2 seasons he was head coach. This is a guy who literally was a heartbeat away from being the head football coach of Florida A&M. But once again, Board of Trustees, I'm not going to call him what Ken Rashad calls him. I mean, you know what Ken Rashad calls folks like that. But I'll just say that you got to let sports people do sports people things. And them not allowing Tiffany Dawn Sykes to do sports people things and made them do things the hard way. Not saying that James Colsey is a bad football coach, by the way. Not saying that at all. But what I am saying is you undercut Sean Gibbs before you had a chance to see what he can do. And I know A&T is grateful for that because now they get the guy that they really wanted because he's coached there. He's familiar with Greensboro. He's familiar with Aggie pride and all of those things. And this is going to be my hot take. Yes, we still have summer to go. The portal closes in 3 days. So everybody, if you ain't found out where you're going yet, you better find out quickly. We still have summer practice. We still got freshmen coming in for these teams, but I think that both Hampton and A&T are going to be in better shape in the Coastal this year than they've been each of the last 2 years. When you look at it like this, Richmond has moved on. University of Delaware has moved up. Now, I'm a local guy. I'm from Delaware, so I'm familiar with this. Why they would want to go to, be a mid-tier team in FBS when they could still be an FCS contender is a mystery to me. But as my grandmother used to say, not my monkeys, not my circus. So whatever, UD, God bless. Good luck. But this feels like this is a chance now for Hampton and A&T to sort of make some inroads on the football field. I mean, Campbell wasn't that hot last year. Elon was kind of in the middle. You still got to worry about the up north teams like Stony Brook, New Hampshire, Albany, so on and so forth. But this is a chance for both A&T and Hampton to make some noise in the CAA this year. I think Hampton is probably in better shape because Coach Gibbs has to get more of his guys in there and just kind of clean out the residue of the last 2 years of going 2-22. We in room 222. Shouts out to Rick Ross. But yeah, this was the right hire for A&T, I feel like, because Coach Gibbs is a guy who, again, knows the system, knows the program, is a winner, and is going to bring a winner's mindset to A&T. A&T didn't have that the last couple of years. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how much A&T improves. I don't think they're going to be CAA contenders, but I think they'll win more than one game. I absolutely do. I think they'll probably end up like somewhere in the 3-8, 4-7, best case scenario 5-6 range. Hampton, I'm expecting them to go 7-4. I am, because I don't see anybody in the CAA that can compete with Hampton from a track meet standpoint on the offensive end. Defensively is probably where Hampton's going to have to tighten up a little bit, but offensively they have a really good offense. So I'm expecting big things from Hampton. I'm expecting a lot of improvement from A&T going into the 2025 season. Shouts out to DLOB 2010 checking in. Greatly appreciate you, man. So we got 2 more MEAC schools we want to cover really quickly. And got the Bison. Can the Bison bounce back? Never forget that Howard won the 2023 Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference Championship with a bang. I mean, they literally hung 50 on North Carolina Central to win their first outright MEAC championship in 30 years, and they gave Florida A&M some fits in that 23 Celebration Bowl. I'll go on record as saying that was probably the best Celebration Bowl that's ever been played from a competitive standpoint. That's my hot take on that. But got a lot. Howard graduated a lot. Of course, Kenny Gallup Jr. is in the draft process. He should be an NFL player. If anybody watched Howard the last 3 or 4 years, you knew that Kenny Gallup Jr. was probably one of the best defensive players, not just in HBCU football, but in all of college football. He deserves to be in the NFL, period, point blank. But, Howard has a lot to replace on the offensive line. They got a lot to replace from a quarterback perspective. So Larry Scott's got his work cut out for him. But this Bison team, they stay in the hunt because they're well coached, they're disciplined for the most part, and they've had the talent in the past, as evidenced by them winning the MEAC in 2023. So I don't think we're ready to just drop them out of sight as of yet. But I'm really interested to see what Howard looks like in 2023. Also, let me address this real quick. Let me address this really, really quickly. Shout out to Eric Price checking in on Facebook. Yeah, it went to overtime. That was a really good game. Shout out to Davius Richard, who we talked about last week, who led Central to that overtime win over Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl. So no, I'm not going to take that away from Central or Jackson State, but that Howard FAMU Celebration Bowl, it literally was just like, it had your stomach in knots. And I'm a Delaware State guy. So I mean, I really didn't have a dog in the fight either way, but it was really the game that I looked forward to the most because I said it all along. We needed a best for business, to use my WWE fandom. We needed a best for business Celebration Bowl. And two of the more, shall we say, what's the word I'm looking for here? Hoity-toity HBCUs. We needed two of those in the Celebration Bowl for ABC and the ratings. I mean, I called it the Black Excellence Bowl because you had Howard, you had Florida A&M. It was a best for business situation. It was a best for business situation, but and it turned out to be a really good game. And yeah, M1 is right because Howard jumped out to a good lead at one point, and it was like, oh boy, is this really about to happen? But Florida A&M and that offense and that Black Cloud defense they came alive in the second half, and they came back and won the game. So, but yes. We got one more MEAC team to discuss before I get to one more final topic. Morgan State, they need some help on the offensive end because they've had the best defense in the MEAC every year since Dane Wilson and Anton Sewell came up there in 2022. And they won 6 games last year. They went 6-6 overall, 3-2 in the MEAC. Both are their best marks since they won the MEAC in 2014, led by former Delaware State coach Lee Hall, by the way. And it's just one of those things where Morgan, I hope the Bears fandom and booster club isn't losing patience because you have to remember that kids these days, the way the portal works these days, the way recruiting works these days, you never know who you're going to have on your team from year to year now. Basketball, we saw that up close and personal. Football now is starting to really take effect. So now in football, it's not in basketball, you have 15 guys to work, 15 guys or gals for the most part that are going to see playing time. And you already know what you can build and strategize around them. With football, you've got 100 kids now. Like the roster limits have been increased from 80 to 105. So you can have 105 kids on your roster if you can afford it. And that is a lot of that's a lot of personalities. That's a lot of character traits. That's a lot of physical attributes and football skills and talents to sort of coalesce together. And that's hard if you don't know if a kid's going to be there 1 year to next. I mean, 1 year you could have the starting quarterback that throws for, 4,000 yards. And then next thing you know, he is saying he's going to put up that graphic after close consideration and talking with my family and a lot of prayer. I do like that. I mean, I'm not a very religious person, but I will say that I like that the kids are incorporating prayer into their lives now. Because goodness knows we need it with the way the world is today. But, you know, a lot of kids with these graphics saying, after a lot of consideration, after a lot of prayer, after talking with my family, I've decided to enter the transfer portal. Thank you to this school and all the relationships I've built, but my recruitment is open. That's happening in football now. And it happened. I mean, we knew basketball was going to be the hardest hit by the portal first off, but football is next. And it's hard to build a team if you don't know which kids are going to be there from 1 year to the next. But what Damon Wilson's been able to do to make Morgan State at least competitive again deserves a ton of credit. And if this team had any semblance of offense each of the last 2 years, we're probably talking about them going to the Celebration Bowl, not South Carolina State, not Howard, not Central, but that's something that Coach Wilson has probably tried to figure out to make sure that, you know, this team improves at some point during the course of the season. And the MEAC, to me, it's too early to really put a handicap on it, to be quite honest with you, because again, we still have to work through summer practices. We still have to see which freshmen are coming in for each of these schools, but I can't pick a winner right now. And I think that's for the best. Yes, I think South Carolina State is still going to be very good because Chennis Berry's force of personality is going to make them good. Yes, Howard is still very well coached. Larry Scott does a great job getting the most out of his guys. I still think Morgan State has a chance. But after that, and of course, Central, don't forget Central, Trey Oliver, he always has his guys ready. And he's got the advantage that most of these other schools don't have. Walker Harris is coming back and starting quarterback. So he's already got the starting quarterback situation figured out. Everybody else in the MEAC feels like they still got to figure that out. But Central already has their situation figured out with Walker Harris, and him being tutored by Davius Richard is only going to make him better. So but I think the only two schools that I would say don't really need to worry about contending for the MEAC this year are Norfolk State and Delaware State, because there's just too much to clean up. I mean, Delaware State has not had a winning record since 2012. And you see the disgust on my face because I'm an alum. I mean, I'm tired of watching losing football, whether I'm covering it for HBCU sports or going to homecoming. I'm just like, can we win 6 or 7 games a year somehow, some way? We got to make it about the hood someday. We got to make it up. We got to make it about this life. Something, please. I'm tired of watching losing Delaware State basketball, but hopefully it comes around to a point where, you know, all 6 MEAC schools are very, very healthy. And yes, M1, this is true. Norfolk State did have a lot of talent last year. So hopefully Coach Vick and his staff get the most out of it. Not saying that Dawson Odoms couldn't, but maybe it was just time for a change. And when you need a change, you got to change for the better and just go all out with it. And that's what Norfolk State and AD Dr. Melody Webb chose to do. And that was go get Mike Vick. So that works. Hopefully that works out for them. Delaware State went and got Deshaun Jackson. I pray it works out for Delaware State. I pray it works out for Delaware State. Because I can tell you this. And it disappoints me to say this. I mean, I hate to go off the realm a little bit, but I got time because we're only 20 minutes in, and you know, it doesn't make sense to have this short of a podcast. So just going to talk about, I mean, I can riff a little bit. That's what Ken Rashad says. Do your own thing. Don't worry about, you know, what, just do your own thing. But I think Delaware State has the most apathetic fan base and alumni base in the MEAC. I'm not going to score any style points with that, but we have had some things that have just been mind-boggling over the years that just say, do we really care about sports? And I know Dr. Allen is probably going to see this and totally disagree with me because he's run into me a lot of times and we've had discussions about different things, but he's probably going to disagree with me with this because he's pushing for sports to be more relevant in Delaware State. And I say to him, God bless you, sir, but you got to work through the apathy of this alumni base. Because I've said it before on HBCU sports programming that the MEAC volleyball championship held that same weekend had more people in attendance than the final Delaware State football game that same weekend at Alumni Stadium. And it wasn't that damn cold outside. I mean, yeah, it gets cold in Dover in November, but it wasn't that damn cold. I was watching that game on ESPN Plus, man. They kept the ESPN Plus camera stayed on the field. On the field. Because they didn't want us to pan up into the stands to see a bunch of people disguised as empty seats. That's how bad it is right now for Delaware State athletics. And I hope it gets better. I hope and pray it gets better. But you've got to, you know, you got to start. I mean, we already talked about this. That shout out to the boss man, Ken Rashad, checking in. I think the answer is simple: win and they will come. However, that is easier said than done. The doing is the hard part. Yeah. Again, this is a Delaware State football program has not had a winning season since 2012. Hasn't won a MEAC title since 2007. So we're talking about years and years and years of apathy built up for a football program. The Delaware State men's basketball team getting to the MEAC championship game last year was something of an anomaly. It was something that got people excited, but it almost like people forgot about it. It's like, okay, they made it last year, so do we have to go to the games this year? Yes, you have to go to the games. Kids want to see people. They want to see butts in the seats. To quote Tony Schiavone, they want to see butts in the seats. And it's hard to recruit kids if you have fans that just don't care. I mean, the students have gotten better. I'll say this: the student spirit of Delaware State has improved tons. And I give them a ton of credit for that. But it's the older folks that kind of sort of need to, you know, get off the rusty dusty, get the molasses out there behind, start showing up a little bit more. Because the kids need mentorship, they need guidance, and they also need folks to understand that there's pride in being a Delaware State alum. Like, as much as I'm disappointed in the trajectory of Delaware State athletics, I ain't gonna let nobody else say nothing bad about Delaware State athletics. No, it's the family thing for me. Family can talk about each other. You can't talk about us. So that's just my take on that. But I feel like the MEAC football in general is just it's going to be too close to call this year. I mean, I think South Carolina State has earned the benefit of the doubt as a favorite. I still think Central is going to be up there. I'm not discounting Howard. I'm certainly not discounting Morgan. But Norfolk State and Delaware State competing this year for a MEAC championship would be like a surprise. And then when that surprise happens, do you think a school is going to reach out to Mike Vick? Do you think another school is going to reach out to Deshaun Jackson? Quite possibly. So I don't know where else, I don't know where else Delaware State can go other than up. Because, I mean, the last 2 years, and I think the Lee Hall hire and Coach Hall is not, this is me, apologizing for and to Lee Hall. Because that man came into a situation where it was a no-win. Like, he was replacing a Delaware State legend, Rod Milstead, who of course now is still in the area, by the way. He just was named a high school head coach at Milford High School, which is about 20 minutes down the road from Delaware State. So he'll probably send some kids to DSU. Still. But you were replacing a legend, a MEAC Hall of Famer, a 3-time MEAC offensive lineman, a Super Bowl winning offensive guard with the San Francisco 49ers. And you're replacing him, and people are just like ticked off. And I think that's part of the apathy, is that the fan base punished Coach Hall for Rod Milstead being forced out. And that hurt. That hurt Coach Hall, but it hurt the players even more, because there were times that DSU just looked like completely outmatched. There were other times that they looked great. Like that time they went up to Sacred Heart and just absolutely shut Sacred Heart's water off. Watching that game on the stream, it was just like, oh my God. Are we turning the corner? Reader, we did not turn the corner. That was the only win we had in 2024. I was like, oh my God, this team looks great. And then they went right back to the same old stuff. It's like, yeesh. But overall, it's going to be too early to tell with the MEAC. It's too early to tell with the Coastal. Tennessee State, we're still working on some information with them. Obviously, they just had a coaching change with Eddie George going to Bowling Green, and them bringing in Reggie Barlow. So we're still working on that. So we don't want our Tennessee State friends to feel like, oh, the first 2 episodes of MEAC and more, you didn't mention us. We're working on it. This is a work in progress, as all of our HBCU podcasts are. Oh, don't forget, tomorrow, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the debut of Better Than Less Than with Jared Hoffman. Jared is going to be giving you all the information that you need from our Division II and NAIA HBCUs. He may include Virginia University of Lynchburg. I'm playing. I don't know what Jared has planned, but I know it's going to be great. I know it's going to be good. So tune in tomorrow on this YouTube channel at 3 p.m. for Better Than Less Than with Jared Hoffman. And then Friday, we're planning Friday a round table. We're going to do the round table, which is our usual episode where all 4 of us come together, myself, Ken Rashad, Kendrick Marshall, Jared Hoffman. We're going to discuss the big news in HBCU sports as it's happening, and then we'll have an off topic. I had an off topic planned, and I still may do it for this episode just because I want to talk about it. And then if Ken and Kendrick feel like we can expound upon it on Friday, we can. But before I get to that, we got one more topic to hit. Oh, let me see what Mr. Johnny Thornton's talking about. Did you see the Grambling versus Central Celebration Bowl? You were far off base. Celebration Bowl 2016 has the highest ratings of all time. You're determined to advocate for Hampton and Howard at all costs. Well, they're HBCUs like the MEAC schools, aren't they? They deserve as much credit. They deserve as much credit as publication as everybody else. This is the title, MEAC and more. But Howard's a MEAC school, so of course we're going to talk about Howard. And Hampton is an HBCU. Despite the fact they're not in an HBCU conference, but yes, we are going to talk about them. So just want to address that real quick. But we got one more topic to hit. And speaking of Howard, oh boy, Johnny, I don't think Johnny's going to like this one. Blake Harper, the MEAC version of Wilt Chamberlain, Wes Unseld, and Spencer Haywood. Happy 76th birthday to Spencer Haywood, by the way. If you're not familiar with Spencer Haywood, please Google him. The Rookie of the Year and the Conference Player of the Year in the MEAC. Not long after Howard lost to Morgan State in the MEAC quarterfinals, he hit the portal, and this week he announced his Final Four destination possibilities. Howard is still in there, so the Bison still have a shot. But Howard is competing against Creighton of the Big East, the Ohio State University of the Big Ten, and LSU of the SEC for Mr. Harper's services. Now, if you're not familiar with what Mr. Harper did last year, he averaged 19 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, had 3 30-point games, and won the MEAC Player of the Week award countless times. So I think what makes this situation so difficult is because Sports Illustrated ran a feature on him, calling him the most tampered with freshman in college basketball, because his reputation spread quickly and with good reason. I watched Blake Harper play. He's good. There aren't that many 6'8" guards in the MEAC. Those of us who grew up and went to MEAC schools know that at 6'8" at our schools, you're playing center and power forward. That's pretty much it. If you're a 6'7", 6'8" person, you are on that low block with your hand up. But of course, now that we have positionless basketball, we have the Golden State Warriors and Steph to thank for that. Kenny Blakeney was able to put Blake Harper as his sort of like Magic Johnson, Oscar Robertson, Larry Bird sort of hybrid, and it worked for Howard. I mean, I genuinely was shocked that Howard did not get back to the MEAC championship game this year. I was, but it was obviously losing Bryce Harris to the foot injury is what killed their chances, because Bryce Harris was really, really good last year. Could you imagine that Bryce Harris and Blake Harper together? That would have been a dynamic duo for your behind, but it wasn't meant to be. And of course, Blake Harper hits the portal, and his services are highly sought after, as the schools I mentioned will attest. I think what we talk about this all the time about MEAC schools and HBCUs being stepping stones, not just for athletes, but for coaches as well. It's something that we are going to have to adjust to. Adapt or die is what the saying is. And our kids have to do what's best for them, but at the same time, the universities also have to do what's best for them. So I don't think we want to become developmental institutions. We don't want to become JUCOs, as Robert Jones, glorified JUCOs, as Robert Jones said, but you got to sort of take this new era of player empowerment and college free agency for what it is. The floodgates have been opened, but they close at some point. Like we've already discussed how thousands of transfer portal athletes for basketball are not going to find homes because they overplayed their hand. And I'm not one to take away from what these players have earned. I mean, shouts out to Ed O'Bannon. Ed O'Bannon deserves a ton of credit because his lawsuit against the NCAA and EA Sports for the name, image, and likeness thing set all of this off. And he deserves credit for being sort of like the Kurt Flood of college athletics. But just like free agency sort of, had a limitation at one point, I feel like the portal and NIL is going to have a limitation at some point because the money's going to run out for a lot of people very soon. We're going to find out very shortly who has real money and who has paper money. There's a difference. There's a difference when we're talking college athletics. There are schools that have boosters that literally would just say, oh, you need a new field house for somebody? Here's $25 million. Go do it. Oh, you need to add this locker room to the football facility? Here's $15,000. Knock yourself out. Not every school has that. And it's important to note that not every Power 4 school has that. It's important to note that not every FBS school has that. You just have to stay the course, stem the tide. And it's going to be tough for our schools because our schools, we had that brief moment in time. We had a brief moment in time where HBCUs were sort of the flavor of the moment, if you will, because I'll never forget. Ken says this all the time. White guilt is over because black, because you saw all these businesses with, the black squares and all of that. Now they've just absolutely said to hell with DEI, which is funny because the folks who benefit the most from DEI, believe it or not, are white people and white women. Once again, they cut their nose off to spite their face, as per the usual. But yeah, HBCUs are still going to be hurt by it. But, you know, just watching kids say, oh, wow, I'm going to, these top flight kids saying, oh, I'm going to consider going to an HBCU. Some say, oh, I'm even going to an HBCU. Do they stay? No. But the mission of our schools shouldn't change because of that. We have always been a school. We have always been a community that educates people where they are. You know, church, you know, the church saying is come as you are. And HBCUs are as come as you are as they get. Like we don't just educate Black people. You know, there are Latinos, there are Asians, there are indigenous folks that attend HBCUs and are trained and educated at HBCUs. So everybody else is just, you know, shout out to Stutter and Noop for this great point. Power 2 conferences and everybody else. That's it. That's the list. When you think about the SEC and the ACC, if that's what, or I guess the Big Ten got some money because you got Northwestern, you got Michigan, you got, but yeah, it's important to note that everybody isn't, you know, holding like that. Because we just saw a school that was in the first 4 in the NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament move all the way down to Division III. Everybody ain't got it, man. Everybody ain't got it to pay. So the NCAA is going to have to adjust for that at some point. Yeah, you can say that, oh, wow, you know, the money is going to trickle down. And nobody believes that because greed is greed is greed. And the Power 4 is going to say, well, why should I have to share my money with the with Conference USA? Why should I have to share my money with the Sun Belt? Why should I have to share my money with the MEAC? Why should I have to share my money with the SWAC? That's exactly how it's going to go down. So the NCAA is going to have to find a line of demarcation at some point. They're going to have to figure out a way to say, okay, all right, we got this football money, which is massive, but we can't just leave these other colleges in the dark. We have to find out a way to, you know, even this out a little bit. Maybe they'll do that, or maybe they'll just leave everything to die. That's probably what the more favorable option is. But our schools are just going to have to adjust and create things that create something that's a little bit more tangible for us. Like, I don't think the idea of an HBCU arm of an organization is that bad of an idea, to be quite honest with you. Because is there that much difference between the MEAC and the CIAA? I don't think so. Is there that big of a difference between the SWAC and the SIAC? Probably not. So, if the NCAA ends up just going to pot, which is a possibility, HBCUs got to figure out a way how they're going to survive. And our schools have always been the bigger draw from the culture, the atmosphere. We need to play those virtues up. We need to extol those virtues to the highest extent. And if we do that, then we can make our own thing. It's possible. It's going to take a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, but you got to start planning. You got to start planning for the future, because the future of the NCAA, it don't involve anybody that isn't, Michigan, North Carolina, UCLA, Texas, Alabama, Florida. If you don't have a catchy fight song that's going to be played on ABC, ESPN, CBS, NBC, they don't give a damn. They don't. So you're going to have to figure out a way to adjust for that. And that was a really long way of talking about Blake Harper hitting the portal. But unfortunately, these are things that we have to discuss now. These are things that we have to start looking at, because we don't want to get caught holding an empty bag. We don't want to get caught holding an empty bag. And all right, Stuttering Noob, I'll give you that. Yes, the SWAC and the SIAC, there is a little bit of a difference, but I still feel like if these 4 HBCU conferences, and five, because yes, the HBCU AC is NAIA, but they got, Dr. Kiki Baker Barnes is doing yeoman's work, or woman's work, building that conference up. So if we wanted to do an HBCU 5 type of deal, Granted, the HBCU AC doesn't sponsor football, but it doesn't matter because they sponsor damn near everything else. So, I guess we'd have our own little power within HBCUs with regards to football, but it's still something that you think you want to sort of at least explore, because you don't want to get caught out there. You don't want to get caught out there whenever this whole NCAA thing collapses, because there's a very good chance that it collapses. I don't know if y'all can hear that in the background, but it's very annoying. Shout out to the person who lives in my neighborhood who won't turn their damn car alarm off. Okay, finally it's off. Jesus Christ. This is the pitfalls of working from home, people. When you work from home, you're at the mercy of whatever is around you. That's why I try to do this show like midday, because my apartment complex is in front of a daycare and the weather's nice, so the kids are out playing recess. And I don't think you guys want to hear a bunch of 3, 4, 5, and 6-year-olds screaming about, just screaming about as I'm trying to do this show. So yes, shout out to Adam Spencer. I think the portal has sent players in both directions. We got to start making the system work for us. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. There's got to be a way that we can, leverage what our schools can give somebody rather than worry about what, is being taken from them. So that's just something that hopefully we figure out, when as more kids like Blake Harper transfer out, as kids like Mimi Wheeler leave Norfolk State for West Virginia. She was really scheduled to go to Auburn, but she decided to reverse course because of West Virginia offered the money. And hey, a bag is a bag. Get it how you can, because the recession's about to hit. I went to Food Line the other day and the eggs was $10. Food Line, not Trader Joe's, not what's that? I can't remember that other high-end grocery store. Somebody will probably give me Whole Foods. It wasn't Trader Joe's or Whole Foods. It was Food Line, where the eggs was $10. Get that money how you can, because we all gonna need it. But I did want to talk about something off the beaten path really quickly before I get out of here. Yeah, pageantry and cultures are close, but the facilities are different. Yeah, they're a lot different. But I think from a competitive standpoint, it's a little bit closer than it used to be. Like, you can't just count on. There are certain SIAC schools that will never compete with, say, Graham or Jackson State or Southern in football or whatever. But I'm a firsthand witness of Bowie State beating Delaware State in football. Shout out to Jared. But I think, just before closing that out, we just have to, as Adam said, we got to figure out a way to make this portal and this NIL thing work for us. I don't know what that looks like. People with higher pay grades and more education and more experience in sports can probably do that, but I still think there's a way that it can be done. How that looks, we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, and this has nothing to do with the MEAC. Doesn't even have anything to do with the MORE. But I did want to talk about the shenanigans of an HBCU alum that have made national headlines in this recent week. And of course, you know who I'm talking about. The Savannah State wide receiver turned Hall of Fame tight end turned podcaster turned sugar daddy. That's what I'm talking about, Shannon Sharpe. And the crazy, I just don't understand why this man just chose to, I get that, you got money and you want to play around a little bit, but I don't like, if y'all missed out, there's this content creator. That's the PC way of saying it. Content creator. Who is suing him for $50 million for sexual assault. And Shannon and his lawyers have countered that it was consensual. And this is going to be a mess from start to finish, whatever the result. Like, Shannon's lawyer has said that he tried to settle with her for $10 million. So where there's smoke, There's absolutely a fire. Oh, I forgot to do this at the beginning of the show. Doggone it. So yeah, for future reference, if you are interested in making a comment on the show, you don't have to show your face. You can just click the link and come up on the stream. But yes, hey, listen, I'm gonna get it how you live kind of person for the most part. I don't judge people. You know, it's like that meme the kids love these days. We listen and we don't judge. But there are some things that need to be judged. Like a 56-year-old man going on 57, sugar daddying it up for a woman that's old enough to be his daughter. Hey man, listen, I'm lost. Like I could armchair, analyze this thing to the best of my ability, because what I think with Shannon Sharpe is this is a dude who literally is trying to have a second childhood. That's why he calls himself Unc. That's why he has Club Shay Shay. That's why he's on, smoking Black and Milds and having Hennessy and all of that good stuff. And it's like, you're 56, dude. You're 56. You need to find a woman with a pension, a woman who can remember when Bobby Brown sang Tenderoni. You need to find somebody your own age. You need to find somebody who can identify the signs of a stroke. You need somebody who can be a good point of contact as an emergency contact. You need a woman that remembers the Challenger explosion. You need a woman that can tell you what gas prices were, during the last time in the Ronald Reagan's tenure. You don't need to be chasing after these girls that do TikToks. You don't need to be chasing after these girls who watch Real Housewives of Atlanta. Well, even the OG gals watch Real Housewives of Atlanta, so that's a bad so maybe Insecure. You don't need to be talking to these girls that watch Insecure. Insecure has been off the air for a couple years. Doggone. Whew. I gotta start watching TV again. I don't watch that much TV. I only watch sports and WWE. That pretty much tells you what the extent of my television watching is. But yes, a woman with a pension. You need a woman that's about to retire from the transportation board. You need a woman that's about to retire from teaching. You need a woman that's you need a woman that has done her time as an employee and is ready to go on the Tom Joyner cruise. This is the type of woman that you need to be going after when you're 56 years old. You don't need to be going after a woman that is trying to figure out when the next young boy never bust a cap in your behind show is. What do you have in common with a woman like that? What do you have in common with a woman that's going to be shaking her butt to Megan Thee Stallion whenever she hears Megan Thee Stallion in the grocery store? Not that I have anything against Megan Thee Stallion. Respectfully, of course. But yes, you need to find a woman that, still has some social security left. You need to find a woman that is not going to be wearing, you need to find a woman that's going to wear something that's going to flatter her body. You need to find a woman your age, Shannon Sharpe. And yes, shouts out to Jonathan McGriff. In my view, Shannon bears responsibility for this. While I don't believe the accusation choosing to date someone who's 20 years old at over 55 reflects very poor judgment. Regardless of legality, it raises serious concerns about discernment and boundaries. Yes, perfect. Absolutely. Why in the hell? Why? Your last NFL game was in 2002. There is no way you should be dating a woman who cannot remember your last NFL game. There's no way you should be dealing with a woman that, oh boy. Again, fellas of a certain age, get you a woman who can identify signs of a stroke. Get you a woman who can be a good emergency contact. Get you a woman that you can go on the Tom Joyner cruise with. Stop. No, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Be mature. Set a good example for these young men. Because goodness knows they need it. I mean, Shannon Sharpe, he's unked to people like Anthony Edwards, who literally thought that he could pay off his child support in his 18 years of child support in one lump sum. He's unked to John Moran, who got fined for a gun gesture and said, okay, I'll just start throwing fake grenades now. These young dudes need guidance. But where's the guidance going to come from when the guidance is coming from a 56-year-old dude who apparently is paying $25 per cheek to a content creator? Where's the mentorship? Where's the guidance? Where's the leadership? Where's the maturity? Help us help them, because these young boys need help. But when you see a 56-year-old dude who's supposed to be providing the help, needing help himself, I'm just saying, man. That's all. I mean, I literally thought about this. I was like, do I want to say this? And I'm like, hell yeah, I want to say it because it needs to be said. Shannon Sharpe, if you wiggle out of this situation, you need to be down to the Essence Music Festival. You need to be down to the Essence Music Festival talking to women named Yvette, Shauna, Yvonne, Paula. Candace is a younger woman's name. What kind of old woman name? Marie, Charlotte. Women with old school names. You need to be looking at women that are Gen X, just like you. Because these Gen Z, why are you skipping generations anyway? I mean, if you went with a millennial, I guess that's okay. But there's no way that you should be dealing with a girl that cannot remember your last NFL game. Do better, Shannon Sharpe. Do better, all you old men out there that are trying to, relive. You can't have a second childhood at this stage in the game. You can't. It's like my grandma used to say, give an N-word a rope, you want to be a cowboy. You can't be a cowboy with a limp rope, dog. Just saying. And that's going to do it for this edition of the MEAC and More. Greatly appreciate y'all for watching and listening as always. Don't forget to subscribe to this the HBCU Sports YouTube channel. Become a level 1 or level 2 member so you can get all the perks of HBCU Sports coverage that we give you guys for $4.99 a month. It's very cheap. I mean, like I said last week, it's not the same as a cup of coffee when Sally Struthers said a cup of coffee was, but it's still the price of a cup of coffee. Don't forget to follow us on the Musty app, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok. We're everywhere. Just Blue Sky. Just look for HBCU Sports. And if you want to donate up front, go to donate at hbcusports.com on the Zelle app. And then, or if you want to go straight to the website, go to hbcusports.com/donate. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you'll get all the news that we print on the website to your inbox. And once again, you never know. One day, Ken Rashad might get on here and say, I'm going to give you guys a t-shirt. I'm going to give you guys a hat. We might end up selling coffee mugs. You never know. So thank y'all for watching this edition of MEAC and More. Don't forget, tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern, Jared Hoffman's debut of Better Than Less Than, which covers everything D2 and NAIA and goes live. And then Friday, the HBCU Sports Roundtable, where we all get together and talk about things. That's going live on Friday as well. So stay tuned. Thank y'all for watching. Till the next time we speak, y'all be good or be good at it. We gone.